Well, welcome everybody to our online series for people in recovery, brought to you from the Sunshine Coast Health Center up here in Powell River, BC. And we've been talking about the results of some research that we haven't completely finished, but we've crunched the numbers and looked at the statistics and what was significant and what wasn't. And we particularly caught our eye as on the reasons that the people who answered our survey gave if they had had a drink after treatment or some kind of drug. And these people have completed treatment between 3 and 48 months. So we had this nice range of people telling us why they slipped. And just to make sure everybody knows, the majority were clean and sober, so that's good. But some of them did admit to having a beer, or a couple of beers, that kind of thing. Anyway, we asked them the reason why that the drug became appealing, right? So we've already talked about the number one reason by far was boredom. The second reason was loneliness. And the third one, topic we can deal with now, is guilt. And this is very interesting because guilt seems to be another of these really common factors in the addiction. And the guilt comes from two places. One, it's the guilt that I hurt somebody. And this is a bit tricky, especially for the families, by the way, because a lot of the families are just, they want some acknowledgement that they've been hurt. And very often they don't get it from their loved one. But our experience in the treatment center is that one of the most overwhelming feelings the fellows feel is guilt, because regardless of what they tell mom and dad or anybody else, they know what they've done. But those feelings of guilt are so powerful, they do everything to repress them. But they actually know. That's one form of guilt, hurting somebody else. But there's another form of guilt that many people consider even more powerful. And this is the guilt that when you look back on your life at what you've done, you don't live up to the standards you've set for yourself. And this kind of guilt can really rip the soul right out of you. So guilt is a very powerful thing. And a lot of people, in fact, report that one of the reasons they did use substances was to get rid of the guilt. So that when the people who responded to our survey, who had had a drink or a drug after completing treatment, they gave us this reason of guilt as number 3. Again, this makes perfect sense because guilt is such a brutal emotion that most people that I'm aware of really don't like that feeling. Right? So again, this is another good lesson for those of you in recovery. If you are feeling these feelings of guilt, it's somehow to come to terms with them. It may be through forgiveness, maybe the way you deal with it. It may be a recognition that you, like everybody else on the planet, is imperfect. It may be a recognition that in active addiction, you were typical of people in active addiction who do things that go against their value system and very often against their beliefs. But somehow to come to terms with this, because guilt, at least according to our research, has been shown to be a very powerful factor in turning back to the drugs. Anyway, that's it for this session, and we'll be back next time with one more conclusion we've come to from our research.